What the flip is up, guys? It's your girl Brooklyn and welcome to my channel.
And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. What a wonderful world.
Thank you guys so much for clicking on today's video. I am very excited to finally be filming this for you guys. A few months ago when my daughter was 3 months old, I took her on her very first plane ride ever and we flew from Florida to Utah and we had a splendid time, and I thought that it would be a really neat video idea but also super beneficial for you guys if I went through and told y'all everything that I brought with me that I'm glad that I brought, everything that I wish I would have brought with me on the plane ride, and also everything that I brought with me that I feel like I just didn't need. That way y'all can make your own decisions on what you feel is best to take with you on a plane ride, because let's be real, every little inch in your suitcase is important and is needed, and you don't want to be bringing all this extra stuff that you just don't need with you on the plane when you can put something else in its place. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. If you do, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe because it really helps support my channel. And let's just hop into today's video. So like I said, I'm gonna go through and pretty much break down everything for you guys, from everything that I'm so stoked that I brought to I really wish I would have just saved the space in my bag and didn't bring it. If you're curious about what all I brought for myself and for my daughter, who is now 7 months old, but she was 3 months old at the time, I actually filmed a video where I go through and explain every single thing that I brought with me on the plane. So I will make sure to put a link for that video in the description box below so you guys can check it out when y'all are done with this video. Before we get into what you guys came here to see, I just want to start by saying that you need to check with the airline that you are going to be flying through just to make sure that you are up to date on all their rules and regulations and their policies in regards to this pandemic. Even though my daughter and I flew just a short 3 months ago, I feel like so much has already changed, and I really don't want you to get to the airport and be blindsided by a new rule or policy that they have and you not be able to get on the plane. So yeah, like I said, just make sure that you are fully up to date with all of their rules and regulations. Call and speak with them. Just make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row before getting to the airport. All right, so let's just start this thing off right now. This isn't in any specific order. I just kind of wrote this stuff down throughout my day at the airport and was like, ooh, this is good. Ooh, this is bad. It's in a random order. I just want to share it with you guys. Piggybacking off of what I just said about checking with the airline, the first thing that I am very glad that I brought with me to the airport is multiple masks. Now, the reason that I say multiple masks is this. So the airline that I flew with actually required specific kinds of masks, and I didn't know this at first. So the original mask that I wore to the airport the morning of actually had a vent on it. When I went to go board the plane, I was told by the airline that they do not allow masks that have vents, and they actually weren't going to let me board the plane with the mask that I had. So if I didn't have another mask with me, I would not have been able to get on my flight. And could you imagine missing your flight because you brought the wrong mask to the airport during a pandemic? Yeah, luckily I had multiple masks in my bag. I had a few in my diaper bag, but with that being said, make sure that you either A, bring multiple different kinds of masks with you just in case, or B, check with the airline to make sure that you are bringing and wearing the appropriate mask for the flight. Because yeah, like I said, if it wasn't for the fact that I had a different mask that met their requirements, they were not going to let me board the plane that morning. Okay, so the next thing that I am so glad that I brought with me are puppy pads. Now, I know you may be thinking, Brooklyn, why'd you bring puppy pads to the airport when you don't have a dog with you? Listen, hear me out. I am a firm believer in working smarter, not harder. So whenever I can get that done, I do it and I'm about it. Yes, you can bring a normal diaper changing pad cover. I have one in my daughter's diaper bag. It goes everywhere with us. It's very beneficial. It helps when we're out and about and in town. But when I was in the airport, I found using puppy pads so much easier. It literally made the world of difference. I don't know about y'all, but when I think of airports, I just think of them being nasty. I don't know why. And the last thing that I was trying to do was have to dig through my daughter's diaper bag to find the changing pad cover that I had, laying it out, changing her on it, then having to disinfect it and clean it, especially in the middle of a pandemic, all while having to deal with her and all of my belongings that I had. It just made it so much more difficult, and it was just too much to deal with. Was it impossible? No. But was it a lot easier not having to do that? Absolutely. Especially on the plane. When I would get up in the middle of the flight, I would pull out the puppy pad, I'd lay the puppy pad down, lay her on it, change her diaper, and once I was done, I'd pick her up and I'd toss the puppy pad in the trash, and I was done. Donezo. It made the time so seamless. I'm not kidding when I say that it made my experience not only 10 times easier, but 10 times faster. So if you take anything from this video, I would highly recommend that you make sure that you bring puppy pads with you to the airport. Trust me, you'll thank me later. All right, so the next thing that I'm very glad that I brought with me is my car seat cover. Now, I bring this with me everywhere. It's always on her car seat. If I'm being honest, in my mind, it kind of acts as her own little mask, but I was very glad that I brought this with me because it did a multitude of things for me. Not only did it help keep me covered while breastfeeding her on the plane and throughout the airport, it also acted as a barrier for her. So like if she was sleeping, I could put it on top of her and she was able to sleep a lot better because it wasn't as bright. So if like the overhead light was on and it was really bright in the plane, it didn't bother her and affect her, and she was able to sleep a lot easier with it. But then it also acted as like a little blanket for her too. So I didn't have to have a million different things out on my lap. It just kind of kept her warm because on airplanes, it does tend to get a little cooler. Okay, so the next thing that I'm so glad that I brought with me was a neck pillow. I know what you're thinking, like, yeah, that's nice and all, but it's not like a necessity. But listen, so what I actually did is I used my neck pillow and it acted as a boppy for Charlie. So while I was breastfeeding her, I would put the pillow underneath of my arm / her head so I could prop my arm up on it so my arm didn't get tired when I was nursing her. If she fell asleep in my arms, she could use the pillow to lay her head on so she was comfortable. I just found it very convenient, especially with nursing her on the plane. Basically acted as a boppy, but when I was done with it, I would just clip it to my backpack and I didn't have to worry about the hassle of toting it around. It was just out of the way. It was super lightweight, very convenient. I would highly recommend that. If you're, you know, wanting to bring a nursing pillow, but you don't want to carry like that big boppy around, you can just use a small neck pillow. Works the same. Now this next thing, I'm sure I'm gonna get a few people that disagree with me on it, but that's okay. But one thing that I am so glad that I brought with me was Charlie's car seat and her stroller. A lot of people find it easier to just check the stroller and check the car seat right when you get to the airport. That way you don't have to think about it anymore. They put it on the plane for you, and when you land, it's waiting there for you. No big deal. But I am so glad that I did not do this. Here's why. Let me explain. So I am the kind of person where I don't like to check my bags. I know that sounds stupid, but I don't want to have to deal with checked luggage. I would rather just keep it all with me. I can tote it around. That way when I land at my destination, I can literally just walk out of the airport and go. I don't have to worry about my luggage getting potentially lost or what have you. I've just dealt with that before, and that's just something that I don't want to deal with. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree, and that's totally fine. I like to carry my luggage on the plane with me. The first reason that I'm glad that I brought the car seat and the stroller with me is I was able to put most of my bags and stuff inside the car seat when Charlie wasn't in her car seat, and I could kind of maneuver it and put it all on the stroller and underneath the stroller as well. Didn't have to lug it around all day long. It wasn't a hassle at all, and it allowed me to keep my hands free for Charlie. Two, there were times that Charlie just did not want to be in her carrier. She wanted to stretch out or look around, or was just tired of being held, or was hot, or whatever the case may be, and she just didn't want to be in the carrier anymore. So because I had the stroller and the car seat with me, I was able to strap her into the stroller, no problem. But one thing that I will say is if you're going to put your baby in the car seat or the stroller, make sure that you strap them in, especially in today's time, in today's day and age. You can't trust people. So if you're gonna have your baby in the stroller or in the car seat, make sure that they are locked in at all times. And the last reason being, even if Charlie didn't really mind being in the carrier, or you know, she wasn't fussy or anything, there were times where my shoulders would get a little sore, or I myself would just be really hot and didn't want to carry her. So I had the option to take her out of the carrier and put her in the stroller if I wanted to. So I would definitely recommend keeping the stroller in the car seat with you. It really isn't that much of a hassle at all, and it allows you to kind of put all of your belongings on it, and you're not having to tote it around and carry it all throughout the airport. And then piggybacking off of the last thing, I'm also glad that I brought her baby carrier with me. This thing came in handy so much, and I used it way more than I thought I was going to. It just made toting things around so easy. With the type of carrier that I used, I have the Ergo Baby carrier, and with that carrier, I was able to use both of my hands, and I felt comfortable doing so because she felt tight and secure to me, but I was able to use both of my hands to maneuver stuff around. And if Charlie was sick of being in her car seat or laying down, I could just plop her in the carrier. It was so nice. She loved it. So that's definitely something that I recommend bringing if you have one. Okay, so another thing that I'm really glad that I had on hand with me are multiple sleepers. So I already knew going into this that I was going to just keep Charlie in her sleeper all day long. They're comfortable, they're super easy to change her diapers. So I just wanted to make not only her as comfortable as possible, but I wanted to make my life as easy as possible as well. So having a sleeper on her was a must for me. Because of the altitude change, it can actually cause babies to poop a lot. And luckily, the way that I was seated on the plane and where I was seated, I was able to change Charlie's diaper rather quickly if I needed to, but that's not always the case. One of my flights in particular, I was sitting in the middle seat and we had a lot of turbulence throughout the plane, so I wasn't able to get up and walk around as much, and the row was completely filled, so it wasn't like I could just change her diaper in the seat beside me. So Lord forbid if she would have had a blowout, I kind of would have been screwed because I wasn't able to get up and going to the bathroom whenever I wanted throughout that entire flight. So it was nice to make sure that I had multiple sleepers in case, Lord forbid, she had a blowout and I needed to change her outfit. So the next thing that I'm really glad that I brought with me is a stroller hook. I found this thing at Home Depot and it is a game changer. I am so glad that I had this. This thing was amazing. So like I mentioned earlier, I didn't check any of my bags and I carried everything around with me. So I had several bags with me. I had a larger backpack that had all of my things in it. I had Charlie's diaper bag. I had a second large bag that had the rest of mine and Charlie's things in it, the car seat, the stroller, and the baby carrier. So I had 6 things total that I was trying to keep track of the whole time. And 3 of my 4 bags that I brought with me were backpack style. So obviously I couldn't wear all of them on my bag the whole time. So the hook made it so easy to keep up with my things, and it made walking around the airport a breeze. So I would highly recommend one. My stroller didn't get like top heavy, and it actually held quite a bit of weight. So I was able to put on quite a bit of stuff on it. No problem. All right, so the last thing that I'm glad that I brought with me on the plane was Charlie's binky. She doesn't really use binkies hardly ever, but her binky actually came in handy multiple times throughout my trip to help babies pop their ears when you're going through the altitude change. For us adults, we can yawn, we can chew gum, or we just kind of deal with it. For babies, they don't understand what's going on and they don't know how to pop their ears themselves. A good way to help them to be able to pop their ears and equalize the pressure in their ears is to nurse if you breastfeed, or maybe feed them a bottle, but you can also give them a binky to suck on, and it's that sucking motion which helps pop their ears. So every time the plane would take off and we would land, I would put her on the boob and I would nurse her. And most of the time she would nurse during takeoff, and then she'd nurse until she fell asleep, and it kind of helped her sleep throughout the whole flight. So because I really wanted to make sure that she nursed during takeoff, I didn't want to put her on the boob until the very last minute, until I absolutely had to, because I wanted to make sure that she was going to nurse during takeoff and during landing. But if you've ever flown before, you know that that's not always the case. The plane doesn't always just take off right when you board, and sometimes delays happen and things happen and times get pushed back, and that actually happened a few times with us. So having the binky, I was able to kind of like keep her preoccupied, you know, until the plane took off. But also there was a few times where for some reason Charlie just didn't want to nurse during takeoff. So since she wouldn't nurse, I was able to just give her her binky, and she was still able to do the sucking motion, and that kind of helped pop her ears. So I would highly recommend bringing one if your kiddos use them, because sometimes they might not want to nurse, or maybe there's been a delay and you're stuck in the airport for an extra 3 hours and they're hungry and you can't hold them off anymore. You got to feed them, so when the plane takes off you can just pop a binky in their mouth. It's a win-win. All right, and now on to the list of things that I wish I would have brought with me. The first thing on this list are noise canceling headphones for Charlie. I learned this lesson the hard way. And from here on out, I will definitely make sure that I bring some noise canceling something of some kind to help her. Because in general, the plane is actually really loud, which if I'm being honest, I think that actually helped Charlie sleep a good bit, but it was all the other noises going on around us that was the problem. They would scare her or wake her up and like make her jump. It's things you don't think of. Random foods opening and closing, babies crying, the captain speaking over the intercom. Even the seatbelt sign coming on was loud. And I don't know about y'all, but for me, that's stuff that I don't even really, like, you don't think about it being loud until you're sitting on a plane with a sleeping baby, and then you're like, holy crap, what was I thinking? Why didn't I bring noise canceling headphones? Not to mention, throughout all of the plane rides, the only time that Charlie got fussy was on one of the plane rides on our way back home. There was another baby on the plane with us that started throwing a tantrum in the middle of the flight. And I think Charlie was feeding off of him, because as soon as he started screaming, after a few minutes of him not stopping, she started to cry and she wouldn't stop. She didn't stop crying until they got him calm. As soon as he calmed down, then she was good. I think she started to feed off of him, and then they were feeding off of each other. But yeah, I would definitely recommend bringing noise canceling headphones for your baby. Water break. Sorry. I'm very thirsty right now. That actually kind of goes along with this next thing that I wish I would have brought with me, which were snacks and water. So with all of this COVID mess going on right now, and you know, the world being in the middle of a pandemic, they don't serve drinks or snacks on the planes, or at least when I flew, they didn't. So while yes, you can purchase food and stuff in the airport, it's just so expensive. And not to mention, I honestly didn't have that much time in between my flights to stop and get anything. Even on my longer layovers, with getting myself to the restroom, changing Charlie's diaper, and getting to the gate, that just took up a big chunk of time. And I just found myself multiple times throughout my travel day wishing that I would have brought snacks and drinks with me. All right, I know that list was a little short, my bad. This next list is actually kind of short too. So these are things that I wish I wouldn't have brought with me. So the first thing that I wish I wouldn't have brought is my jacket. Pretty much the entire time, I was completely drenched in sweat, as was Charlie. We both just run so hot. We're like freaking furnaces. But because I had my jacket with me, I wore it, because if I didn't wear it, then it was just an extra thing to lug around. And every single flight I got on was a packed flight, which already makes your surrounding areas warmer. And then top that with having to carry Charlie around, having the cover over myself, wearing a mask, just with everything, it made it 10 times hotter. The jacket wasn't needed. And the last thing that I wish I would not have brought with me is the stroller cover that I purchased. So I purchased this large orange, like waterproof stroller cover. I was actually able to fit my stroller and the car seat inside of, but honestly, I almost feel like it was money wasted. It has nothing to do with the product itself. The product was amazing. It was great quality. It did exactly what it was supposed to, but I just found it being more of a hassle than anything. And I don't know if that's because I flew by myself or what, but I feel like when you're in line, there's like a ton of people behind you and you're just trying to get on the plane, especially if you're carrying your luggage on, you've got all your stuff. It was super easy in regards to having the stroller and the car seat. You literally just wheel it right up to the plane, you break it down and you're good. But with the stroller cover, I had to like dig through my bag, pull it out, unfold it, put the stroller and the car seat inside of the cover, then pick everything back up, get back in line. And then when we landed at our destination and I was getting off the plane, I'd have to do the same thing all over again. I'd have to take the stroller and the car seat out of the cover, fold the cover back up, put it back in my bag, pick up all my stuff. It's just so much easier to break down the stroller and get right on the plane. Yes, if you do that, you risk your stuff getting damaged or dirty, but honestly, I didn't have a problem with that, and no one, and I mean no one else, took the time to put a cover over any of their things. I don't know if it was just luck of the draw, but luckily I didn't have any damage on any of my stuff. Her car seat didn't get dirty, and all I did was kind of like wipe it down with Lysol wipes when we got to where we were going. All right guys, so that is everything that I have for you. I do just want to give y'all a quick little tip, if I may. I did not know this, but when you are going through security, you actually have to carry baby in your arms and literally put everything else on the table. That I knew, but you actually have to break down the stroller. They wheel the stroller through the metal detector. They actually flip the car seat upside down and lay it flat, and it actually has to go through the little conveyor belt thing, like with your luggage and everything else. I didn't know this, so I would just kind of keep that in mind when you're walking up to security. Try and go ahead and get all your ducks in a row, get everything ready. I would take your shoes off, take your belt off, put all of your belongings in their each little individual bin like you have to, all before grabbing baby. But you also want to make sure that everything's ready to go because you're going to carry baby through the metal detector. That I learned the hard way when I first originally got to the airport. I was going to put her in the carrier, but she was still sleeping in her stroller, so I actually had to wake her up to take her out of the car seat. It was a lot. It was a hassle. People were a little cranky because, you know, people in line are like in a rush. So people were very frustrated with me because I was taking a little bit longer than I probably could have if I would have known what I was doing. So yeah, learn from my mistake. Have everything prepared and ready to go before you get up to the line. Like before you get all the way through the line to where you're at the metal detector. It gets to be a lot, especially when other people are in a rush and they're like rushing you. Like, what are you doing, lady? So just be aware. Be aware. All right, guys, and that is everything that I have for you guys today. I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. If for some reason I've forgotten anything, which I'm sure there is, I'm sure as I'm editing this video, I'm gonna be like, I wish I would have said that. Why didn't I tell them about this? With that being said, if I forgot anything, I will make sure to link everything in the description box below for you guys. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe because it really helps support my channel. And I will see you guys in next week's video. Bye.